So, by now you should have watched a video on Khan Academy about how to multiply mixed numbers. The reason for me doing that is because in this lesson and for the work you're completing in your student book and home connection book, you're going to be using an array model, and it's labeled as that as the top. And we've done work with array models with normal standard multiplication. So I'm going to use a normal standard multiplication example here before going into multiplying mixed numbers. Now, the important part here is noticing that, oh, Miss Valier, she gave us a video to watch first about how to multiply fractions using array model. This means we are multiplying, okay? And in order to multiply, we'll get there, but that's the really, really important part. These models show you multiplication, okay? Now, in my first example, I already have some information on my array model. Usually, when it's separated like this, there are two numbers up here. So what I need to figure out is what times 11 equals 220. My first thought is, well, I know 2 times 11 is 22, and I know when you multiply something by 10, that would add another 0. So my answer in this box here would be 20. 20 times 11 should be 220. So in this box, I did 11 times 20. Okay? And that's going to equal 220. And what we're doing here, you notice there's two numbers up at the top. What's happening up here is this number is being split by its place value. So it's saying I have 20 and I have 2. But instead of just multiplying 11 times 22, I'm doing 11 times 20 and then 11 times 2. Okay, and 11 times 2 helped me answer this, and I know 11 times anything that's under 10, you double the number. So we've got 22. Now, I am not done yet. My last step is to add the answers to these together. Okay, so 220 plus 22 to give you 242. Okay, you're going to see on the side something that looks like this. The multiplication that I just did, you take the numbers on the side, 11. The multiplication I just solved is 11 times what this is added together, which is 22. Okay, so 11 times 22 equals 242. Then it's going to ask you to write it also as a division problem. So all we need to do is start with our answer, 242, and you can choose either one, either 11 or 22. I'll go with 11. 242 divided by 11 will equal the other factor, 22. Okay, so now I have my multiplication and the division that I just did. Okay, now that we've done it with regular numbers, we're lucky here in this next example that the numbers are already there for us and we don't have to figure out like we had to figure this one out. Okay. But what we do have to do is fill in our array model. Now, what I need to remember is that these numbers are split into their place value. So that is the same thing as 2 and 1/2. And this is the same thing as 2 and 1/2 as well. Okay, so 2 plus 1/2 is 2 1/2. 2 plus 1/2 is also 2 1/2. Now what I need to do is go through each box and do the multiplication. Remember, these boxes are a way of breaking up your multiplication. And I know this isn't everyone's favorite way of multiplying, but it is a really good visual way to break it up in case you need that step by step. So, in my first box, I'm going to follow my 2, and it meets the other 2 at the top. So I need to do 2 times what's at the top? 2, okay? And that is going to equal, we should know the answer to that, 4, okay? Now I'm going to use the same process, and I'm going to go back to the 2. I already did 2 times 2, so now I need to do 2 times 1/2, all right? So now I'm doing 2 times 1/2. Now, here's the important part. When I am multiplying fractions, I'm going to do this math down here. I notice that this is a whole number and that is a fraction. Now we should remember, and it's okay if we're not because I'm going to go back over it right now, that I can turn my whole number into a fraction by putting it over 1. This means I have 2 sets of 1 whole. Okay? And then I'm going to multiply that by 1/2. Okay? When I multiply, I don't have to change the denominator. I don't have to do any of that. All I have to do is multiply straight across. So I'm doing 2 times 1 is 2, and 1 times 2 is 2. Now, you notice 2 wholes was over 1. If you have the same numerator and the same denominator, so they're both the same number, that is always going to equal 1 whole. Okay? So my answer here is 1. Great. I'm all done with this 2. All done. Did that row. Now I'm going to start with my 1/2. So all of my math here, 1/2 times, and I'm going to see, oh, the purple number at the top is 2. Lucky for us, this is multiplication. So the order in which you write this problem, 2 times 1/2 or 1/2 times 2, does not matter. It gives you the same answer. Okay? And my last box, you see that it's empty now. I've got my 1/2 and at the top, my purple is 1/2 as well. 1/2 times 1/2. Okay. Now we're lucky with this one that there isn't a whole number. I don't have to change it at all. I can just do 1/2 times 1/2 all out. And all I have to do is multiply straight across. It's already set up for me. Okay? 1 times 1 equals 1. 2 times, marvelous mistake. I wrote the problem incorrectly. This is why we go back and check our work. 2 times 2 is 4. So my answer for this box is 1/4. Now, again, I'm not done because I do have to add all of the answers together. Okay, so I'm going to do my addition down here. Answers. Okay, this is helping me label and make sure that I know what I'm doing. So I've got 4 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1/4. So for me, I know what 4 plus 1 plus 1 is. 4, 5, 6. So what I have left is 6 plus 1/4. And that will give you 6 and 1/4. Okay? Now it's time to fill in the math that we just did. Okay, so originally we started with 2 1/2 times 2 1/2. So that's what I write in. 2 1/2 times 2 1/2 equals my answer down here, 6 and 1/4. Great. Now to flip this into a division problem, it's the exact same numbers. All you're doing is starting with the answer. So 6 and 1/4 divided by, you can choose either one. They're the same number. 2 and 1/2 equals 2 and 1/2. Now when you do your math homework, I'd like for you to do this in pencil. I'm just using different colors so that it's visually easier for you. Both of your pages are going to be doing this. So remember, start with the side, right? 2, and go up to the top. Once you've completed that box, start back at that same side and go up to the top again, 1/2. Okay? Do the same thing with the second row. Not all of them are going to have that many rows, but that is what you're going to do. Do not forget, do remember to add all the answers from each of the boxes together in order to get your final answer. Keep in mind that your two numbers are split at the top. They're added together up here. They're split by place value. So if I wanted to split the number 22 like I did up here, I'd split it into tens. There's 2 tens. 2 times 10 is 20. And 2 ones. 2 times 1 is 2. Okay. So there's your example for that. Email me if you have any questions.